Yeah, I met Sam back in 1983 when I was covering the Philadelphia Stars of the United States Football League, and they signed him, and after he had been already cut by Cleveland and Toronto of the CFL, and that was his lifeline. I mean, he doesn't make without the USFL, Sam would have become a great high school teacher and a great high school coach, but we would have never heard of him, and he certainly wouldn't have made the Hall of Fame. Um, I left the newspaper business in late 2021, Joe. About that same time, as you guys know, Sam made the Hall of Fame. So the timing, I was going to write books, and I had known Sam for many, many, many years, and I mean, I love writing stories that inspire people and move people. And if you're not inspired by Sam's story and life, then nothing can inspire you. So it was a pretty easy choice as far as making him the book subject when I decided to write one. So he's the most inspirational guy I've ever covered, and I covered the game for 40 years.
Wow. Dunk, what do you have for Paul?
No, I just wanted to talk about, like I said, with writing the book, what kind of, and I know you mentioned kind of retiring at the same time, but what kind of brought you to that transition at the time, but what kind of made you want to get into a biography for him, and just what were you trying to kind of convey to people or to readers per se, with the book that you put together for him?
Yeah. I mean, after I left the newspaper business, I didn't want to curl up and die. So I wanted to keep writing. And so books seemed to be the logical choice. I mean, I don't think I'm probably ever going to write a novel, the great American novel. So nonfiction was the way to go. And like I said earlier, I mean, Sam was just an obvious choice for a story. He had just made the Hall of Fame at the time, posthumously. I had been an advocate of his on the selection committee for many years. It's just he makes it on his last shot as a modern era candidate. A guy that had been given up every place he played. I mean, nobody believed a 5'9" linebacker could ever play in the NFL or could ever play major college football. And he proved everybody wrong. So I mean, that's kind of what inspired me to write the story. I knew Sam pretty well, and his tragic early death to cancer kind of made this story even more compelling. So all the pieces just fit for him to be the a guy I wanted to write about.
Yeah, very inspirational story, and a lot of stuff goes on, but it's obviously the backbone, and I guess the neck bone, because it's on the collar of the Panthers jersey, to keep pounding message. It means a lot to me. I mean, personally, just to kind of make that spill, have cancer has kind of affected a lot of people, obviously, but my family in particular. And the story is very, very inspirational at that standpoint. But you're also a Hall of Fame voter, or selector, I guess is the proper term. And I guess with the process that they have now, you talked about Sam's final chance. Like, what are your thoughts on the process overall on a yearly basis of what goes into it? I know in terms of his last chance in the modern era per se, but what are your thoughts on like the process overall now? I know there's been some changes, and of course the Panthers had their guy Luke Kuechly go in, and there was a whole hubbub about him not being first ballot because he's one of the all-time greats. But I just want to get your thoughts about the process overall, and I guess the honor it is to be one of the people that has the a vote for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy about the changes they made a couple of years ago. Not sure why they made them. A lot of it had to do with Deion Sanders and some other Hall of Famers that kind of got a bug in the ear of the people that run the Hall of Fame, that it was getting too easy to get in, which I thought was nonsense. I mean, we've got I look at the players that aren't in, and there's such a backlog. I mean, I think if anything, they need to figure out a way to get more guys in, particularly seniors who are just getting lost and will never get in. I thought before they made the changes 2 years ago that it was as good a process as any of the sports have. I mean, we get down to 15 finalists, And, we spend 8 hours, used to be the day before the Super Bowl, in person in a room discussing these guys and reducing from 15 to 10 to 5. So, I always thought the process was very thorough. The new process where particularly with the seniors and the coaches it was the reason Belichick didn't get in last year, which was, an embarrassment, was because of the process. I think we'll probably see it changed either this year or next year and go back to the way it was. And at least I'm hoping. So as far as being a selector, I've been one since 2002, and yeah, it's an honor. If they told me tomorrow that they did want me to do it, I'd be fine with that. But they asked me to do it, and most of the guys in that room, there's 50 of us, 50 men and women, and writers, broadcasters, former player personnel people, former coaches, former players. Everybody I think does a pretty good job of doing their homework and doing the heavy lifting to pick a fair class.
Yeah, it does make it tough and I think, and I don't want to kind of compare generations, but it just feels like this process, unless they change something, it's going to create even bigger logjam because there's a lot of quality players coming down the pipeline. Even as far as next year, you guys have a tough decision coming up with guys like Gronkowski, Ben Roethlisberger's on the list, of course, and Antonio Brown, those guys. And a couple of our own Panthers. Steve Smith has been a guy that's kind of been waiting, one of the all-time greats as well. The numbers support that as well. And I know Cam Newton's going to come up as well with, may not have the numbers per se, but his impact, it's kind of hard to ignore that part of it. But what do you see, I guess, the process turning out for the Panthers fans that are listening, for guys like a Steve Smith who has the numbers to support it and still can't get in, but also a guy like Cam who it doesn't necessarily quantify his impact on the game? Like, where do you see those guys kind of fate and future being with the process as is per se? I know you said it mentioned me some changes, but with the process how it is now.
Yeah, Steve Smith belongs in. I think he will get in the next few years. Cam's a tough call. I look at his numbers. They're not great. Beyond 2015, I think he made two all pro teams. He was. The problem is distinguishing between the Hall of Very Good and the Hall of Great. And I don't know. I don't know where Cam fits in there. It's. There are a lot of quarterbacks, obviously, I think, that are going to be finalists before he is. So it's not a decision that's going to be made anytime soon. He's going to be probably waiting for a while. But I think he deserves consideration. I just don't know right now. I don't know if he belongs in or not, Dunk.
Yeah, I don't disagree with your thought process. It'll be something that'll happen over time, if not. And it's not something like, if it was like the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, I think he has the resume as a collective since college to put it up against anybody. Yeah. But just in terms of the NFL play, I agree with you on the stats. Joe, did you have any specific questions, or I can?
No, that was great. I'm glad that I wanted to have Paul address Cam's candidacy. Luke was kind of stumping for Greg Olsen last week in Canton. And if you look at Greg, he had, at the time, he was the first tight end to go over 1,000 receiving yards in 3 consecutive seasons, 13 through 15. Kelsey has since done it. But I guess I'd ask you, and I know you haven't probably done a deep dive on Olsen's stats, but where do you think he has any kind of shot?
Again, he's kind of like Cam. And, first of all, you look at the tight ends that are probably going to be getting consideration ahead of him. You got Kittle, you got Kelsey, you got Gronk, you even got Jimmy Graham, who's probably got 29, 30 more touchdown catches than Greg. And again, I love Greg. I thought he was a terrific tight end. He's one of those guys that, you got to ask yourself, Hall of Very Good, Hall of Fame. I don't know yet. I haven't had to think hard about him. I think he deserves to certainly be considered to at least get into the room someday as a finalist so that we could talk about him and argue about him. And